Well, Evan, it's great to see you and great to see the success that you're having right now. Certainly last year with the Dodgers that we'll touch on a little bit later on. But we want to talk about UNCW, you getting to UNCW and the success that you had there. And we'll start there. You were drafted out of high school. You didn't go. You were in the 33rd round by the Royals. You elected to go to UNCW. What attracted you to UNCW? What was that recruiting process like for you?
Yeah, when I got drafted out of high school, I think I knew I had a lot of development still to do, and I think I had a really good opportunity to come into school at UNCW, and one having a relatively immediate impact. I knew I would have a place to pitch, and two, a great place to develop, and also get a great education as well at the same time. So it was really an easy decision to make my way to school. I knew there was a bright road ahead of me if I made that decision. There's been a few times where I've thought about what life would have been like if I decided to sign, and every single time I wind up saying I'm glad I didn't. I really did enjoy my time at UNCW. I think it was extremely beneficial for me as a person and as a baseball player. It's something I miss dearly too.
Mark Scaff, head coach at that time, Randy Hood, associate head coach as well. How did those guys kind of convince you as well that UNCW was the perfect spot for you?
I think they had me reach out and talk to a few current players and kind of get a feel for what uh, that community feel, what that clubhouse is like there, as a Seahawk, especially as a part of the baseball program. And I think it just shed a lot of light onto what good could come out of me being down there and being part of the team. Um, I was talking to a few of the other recruits that were my age as well, and I think we all kind of just felt it would be great if we could try to have an immediate impact as freshmen and see how we can help the program.
And again, when you talk UNCW baseball, we always talk about it being a brotherhood. You see those guys involved from the past to the present and everybody together. Is that something that, again, Mark Scaff, Randy Hood, that they help create that brotherhood that you guys have?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first sign of that was on moving day when I'm moving into a suite with nine other freshman baseball players, and those nine guys quickly became some of my best friends strictly because of that. We were all placed in the same spot and said, "Hey, good luck. Here's your bed. Here's your kitchen. You 10 guys figure it out." And we had a lot of the same classes, so just building that environment, a very team friendly environment, from a freshman standpoint. And then, those days in the fall when you guys have individual skill work practices, pitchers work, weightlifting, groups, things like that, to really just instill that culture that you're looking for when you're running a program. So I think, a lot of that falls on the coaching staff, but a lot of it comes from the leadership of the players as well. And I think, especially, my younger years at UNCW, I think we had a lot of great leadership in our upperclassmen.
2013 to 2015 is when you pitched at UNCW. First year, your freshman year, you get to a regional appearances as an at-large bid going to Charlottesville. Did that tell you what UNCW baseball was all about at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a bit of a shock for me when I got to UNCW and got to experience what baseball at this level would be like. And going to Charlottesville and not only that, but the conference tournament too, getting that real competitive feel for what college baseball is like. Honestly, it kind of was a shock to the system for me. It really, put what college baseball is on the internal map, right? So I knew what to expect going into my sophomore and junior year.
Yeah, your junior year, really the high water mark when you look at a CA championship and that regional in Baton Rouge where you pitched so well. What was it about that team? And, especially the end of the season, it seemed like pitching wise, everything came together. Guys like you, Nick Monroe, others in that weekend rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my junior year, we had that core group of guys that really started to flourish late in the year. Ryan Foster and Jordan Ramsey were a big part of that group too. And that late part of the season really just felt like the culmination of all the work that had been put in. Not only for myself but for the entirety of our, my class and the classes above me. That we knew we had this, goal of winning a regional, right? And unfortunately, we fell short each time we had the opportunity. But that junior season at Baton Rouge really felt like we had a really close shot at winning that one.
Yeah, two very close games with LSU, and you pitched well. and you pitched well against guys that became big leaguers, guys like Alex Bregman and Stevenson as well. Did that kind of tell you internally that maybe you were ready for that next step?
I think I always had that internal belief that professional baseball might be an option for me. I'm sure you understand. I had a pretty tough stretch prior to that point. I would say around Mother's Day of my junior year is really when I kind of had that aha moment on the mound. And I put a pretty good stretch, I think, of 3 or 4 weeks, leading up into the regional, and then had a great performance against, I think LSU was a national seed at that time with, great players and a few big leaguers as well. So I always had that internal belief, but to really do it and do it on a grand stage like that at Baton Rouge really meant a lot for me as a pitcher. Obviously we fell short as a team, and that was definitely disappointing. But it definitely gave me a great bit of confidence leading into eventually getting drafted by the Braves.
Yeah, drafted a 17th round by the Braves in 2015. Take us through that moment when you realized you got drafted, when you found out, and your decision to sign with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at that time, after putting myself together as a pitcher, I really felt like I was prepared for Major League professional baseball at that point. So going through the draft process, meeting with different teams and trying to sell myself, and draft day was somewhat stressful, right? Because it's just that anticipation of like who's going to pick me. Why am I not getting calls or texts, or why am I getting certain texts, right? So it's a stressful day, but I remember my decision really came down to the Braves called and said, "Hey, if you will accept X, like we want you to be an Atlanta Brave." And I told them that I was just ready to play professional baseball. And matter of fact, they actually jumped ahead of the New York Yankees. The Yankees had called me 5 minutes prior and said, "Hey, we're taking you in the 17th round, and they get ready." And then I get a call from the Braves area scout a couple minutes before the pick, and he says, "Hey, if we take you right here, will you sign?" And so pretty much it came down to me whether I wanted to be a Brave or a Yankee. And I wasn't really sharp when it came to negotiating tactics at that point. So I locale wise, I would much rather have been an Atlanta Brave. And growing up, I hated the Yankees, but it's a lot different when you play for them, right? So I was just very grateful for the opportunity. And sure enough, the Braves announced the pick a couple minutes later, and it was a completely different run from that point.
And you were one that I think Seahawk Nation was waiting for to make your debut, because it was coming. It was coming. It was coming. Finally, it did. July 2nd, 2018, you made your debut. Do you remember what that was like for you?
Yeah, Yankee Stadium. I think it was like a Tuesday night, and just a packed house, like 50,000 people, and it's just mind-boggling to picture that as an amateur player. Thankfully, I really can't explain why. I didn't really feel a lot of nerves or anxiety about making my debut. I had a lot of family and friends there in attendance. Actually, two of my college teammates, Will Shepley and Terrence Connolly, were both there for my debut. So that was very special. And I have a lot of great pictures and videos from that. But I will say I told myself that, hey, like, this is your debut. Like, let it sink in. Like, take a moment. And that moment for me felt like 5 minutes, but in reality it was all of 5 seconds, if that. But it was just, I think you should take everyone's debut with a grain of salt. Just say, hey, go enjoy it. You just accomplished a lifelong dream. Just relish in that moment. Give yourself a few minutes to really be excited about that, and then we can move on. I will say I gave up a home run to Giancarlo Stanton that was a true Yankee Stadium home run. It was a pop up that I thought was going to second base, and it just kept carrying and carrying all the way out to right field. And then, I didn't know these things could do it, but they have those LED lights that can flicker after a home run. And I swear the whole stadium was shaking, the lights were flickering, and I couldn't feel my legs. So I tried my best to just stand still and not fall over. So that's my biggest memory of my major league debut.
Yeah, welcome to the big leagues, right? With that
Yeah.
moment at Yankee Stadium of all places. Eventually, you get traded to Baltimore. That was your team growing up, right? That's why you didn't like the Yankees, because you were an Orioles fan.
That's exactly right. Yep, my family's mostly from Maryland. My dad grew up there. So from a young age, I was a Baltimore Orioles fan through and through, especially through all, the hardships of the early 2000s. So to get traded over there, that moment when, my coach brought me in and told me I had been traded to Baltimore, the first thing I thought about was, I just can't wait to tell my dad. Like, of all places to get traded to, getting traded to your favorite team is really a special feeling. And putting on that jersey for the first time and all those sentimental moments that come with that, being able to share that with my family was truly special.
Pitched 14 games in 2020 for them, but then things got interesting for you in 2021, and really in a short amount of time, they got very interesting. August 2nd, 2021, released by the Orioles, signed by Tampa Bay. You had a great outing, your first career save, but then you're eventually claimed by the Dodgers. This was August 2nd to August 16th. All this happened. You were telling us, before we get started here, that you don't take anything for granted, and that kind of stretch tells you why.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that was truly a an unpredictable circumstance. Getting released by the Orioles was it was really difficult. The Orioles weren't necessarily a competitive team at that point, and I was in AAA. So to get released by what a lot of people said was the worst team in baseball, was a really deflating feeling as well. It was really difficult for a couple of days, but thankfully there was a need for me with the Durham Bulls, the AAA team for the Tampa Bay Rays, and they were a team I had admired, my entire career. I'm sure every baseball fan can see it. What the Tampa Bay Rays do year in, year out on the kind of budget they have is truly impressive. So I had a few other minor league offers that I could have gone with, but being part of the Rays organization was something I was very interested in. And then, from that spot, a couple of minor tweaks with the AAA pitching coach and a couple of decent outings at the minor league level, getting an opportunity to pitch with Tampa at the major league level. And like you said, getting my first career save was a 3-inning save. I came into that locker room after the game getting fist bumps, high fives. Everyone's excited, just big team win. And the manager gives the old, "Hey, come talk to me in my office." And I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, here we go. What could this possibly be about? And unfortunately, I was, my roster status at that point was interesting, and I couldn't just be sent right back down to the minor leagues. I had to be exposed, to claim waivers, and that's obviously where the Dodgers swooped in. But that process takes a couple of days, So I had gone home to Raleigh because my thought was that I would just end up back in Durham. So I was just visiting with family, waiting on a phone call, telling me one way or another where I was heading. So sure enough, I get a phone call from a Rays representative, and I could hear it in his voice. He kind of sighed, and he said, "Evan, the Dodgers got you." And my heart just, absolutely sank. And first thing I'm thinking is, how in the world am I going to get to Los Angeles? Like, that's across the country. I mean, how is this going to be feasible? So, I call my family, I call my wife, tell everybody the news, and then I get a phone call from the GM of the Dodgers, Brandon Gomes. And I think this was probably like, 2 o'clock Eastern time. And he said, "Evan, we'd like to have you here for tomorrow's game. There's a 5 o'clock flight out of Raleigh direct to LA. Like, can you make it?" And I'm thinking, okay, I got 3 hours to sort out my life on the East Coast and, pack a suitcase and, throw it up to God and hope for, decent luck getting out there. Right. So fortunately got on that flight, got out to LA, and had a really, really interesting run with LA in 2021. I was still my position was still somewhat in flux, but took it and ran with it the best I could and tried to listen and embrace the Dodgers culture. And because, just like Tampa, the Dodgers have done a lot of tremendous things and, on a significantly higher budget as well, too. So they have, I always call it, and this is pretty much unlimited resources.
Yeah, 7 games in 2021 in the playoffs as well with the Dodgers, and that led to last year. I mean, you were one of the most reliable relief pitchers, obviously for the Dodgers, but in Major League Baseball as well. 64 appearances, 7-3 record, a 1.14 ERA. What was it? What really hit home with you that you had such great success this past year with LA?
I think in spring training last season, a couple of the pitching coaches came to me and said that, "Evan, we have this plan for you. This is what we have envisioned. And we truly think if you can dedicate yourself to this process and this mindset, they really did believe I'd have, pretty a pretty successful season. I don't think anybody thought it would, come out to be a 1.14 ERA and pitching in leverage situations in the playoffs and late in the season. So I think that caught everybody by surprise. But as far as it goes of the day in and day out, I truly believe that that dedication to that process, that one day at a time mentality, and not only me being aware of that, but having countless coaches, players just pounding that into me day in and day out, saying, "Hey, no matter what happens, like don't be result oriented. Like stick to our process, trust us, and let's give this a fair shot."
Expectations, I would think, for you, obviously for the Dodgers as well, higher. How do you make sure that you continue on this pace that you're on? Because again, as you said, hey, it's very fragile existence, especially a pitcher in Major League Baseball, that you could find yourself off a roster very quickly.
Yeah, fortunately, I'm just going to be a creature of habit and routine, and I'm going to do everything I can to maintain that. My wife and I are expecting our first child, so I think having something like an external reason to be excited and get my mind away from the success of one season that I had, we have this whole new, part of our lives to look forward to. And I truly do think that's just the ultimate blessing for me because I'm not one to relish in my own success. I'd rather have, my son to look forward to, and starting that part of my life together with my wife. Um, and when it comes to the work on the field, it's a clean slate. So I'm gonna do my best to not carry my previous season success, into 2023, and we'll just go back to the drawing board and go one day at a time.
Yeah, congratulations to you as life has caught up to you. As you said, you're recently married and now a baby on the way. Certainly an exciting time. All right, there's people like you watching this right now in the audience, players for UNCW. What would your message be to them, knowing now what you know?
Yeah, my first thing I always try to tell young baseball players and really players of all ages, enjoy it. Enjoy the day to day, enjoy the practices, and do everything you can, to cherish that like kid like excitement for the game. So I truly think my passion, just comes from the fact that I enjoy it. So really trying to find a way to enjoy every step of the process and then dedicate yourself to that work that it takes. It's all the stuff behind the scenes, right? It's the extra reps in the weight room. It's taking care of yourself in the training room, being responsible during practice, and always trying to plan, for your success to come to a hopefully point where you achieve your personal dream. If your dream is being a great college baseball player, perfect. If you have dreams of becoming a professional, that's awesome. If you have dreams of just enjoying the game and being a great teammate, that's individual, right? I can't look someone in the face and tell them, hey, if you do A, B, C, and D, you're going to be a big leaguer. I can't tell you your fate. Um, but I always tell people just chase your dreams and chase your passions and let that passion drive it.
We'll leave on this, and I'm upset that I didn't know this story when you were here and I was broadcasting your games. You got to tell me about the honey buns because it became a T-shirt. One of your teammates with the Dodgers kind of found out this story and ran with it this year, right?
Oh yeah, so Evan Phillips is somewhat of a dry name. There's no pizzazz to Evan Phillips. So my excuse me, my coaches were asking me if I had any nicknames. So I brought Honey Bun out of the catalog from college. That was a nickname that was given to me by Matt Batts my freshman year. And to this day, I would say just about every single teammate that I crossed paths with at UNCW would still call me Honey Bun or Bun, Buns, whatever it is. It was literally just a nickname that stuck with me. So it was really fun to carry that into the Dodgers and bring a little piece of my personal life and my college experience into professional baseball too. And it was a lot of fun for the guys. Like you said, they made the T-shirts. Guys were wearing it out for practice and our pregame work and everything. So it was a fun time.
Yeah, was it high leverage honey buns? That the
That's correct.
T-shirt?
Yep.
So there you go. So we all know a little bit more about Evan Phillips. Again, I wish I knew that story when you were here and I was broadcasting your games. But certainly, we are watching your success from afar. Seahawk Nation is very proud of you and the player you've become, but obviously the man and the person you become as well, with a lot of successes off the field as well. Evan, we thank you for spending a little time with us here, and we'll be watching your Dodger success here this year as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mike.